Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're diving deep into a philosophical system that didn't just influence, but fundamentally shaped one of the world's oldest and most enduring civilizations for millennia, Confucianism.
Hmm.
This isn't merely an ancient philosophy you study in a history class. It's a profound blueprint for living, governing, and understanding, well, what it means to be truly human.
Right.
And when we talk about its influence, we're describing something so utterly pervasive that it permeated every facet of Chinese society, from the highest echelons of imperial power down to the most intimate dynamics within a single family. It's like a complete societal operating system.
It's truly striking how these foundational ideas continue to resonate, even thousands of years later. They offer surprising insights into human nature and society that feel, incredibly relevant today.
Yeah.
Our mission in this deep dive is to explore the tumultuous historical crucible in which this profound system emerged, then delve into Confucius's own life and the experiences that forged his worldview. And finally, and this is crucial, dissect the core tenets, the philosophical pillars like Ren, Li, and Yi that define this thought system.
Right, the building blocks.
Exactly. We'll be connecting the dots between an ancient era of intense chaos and a meticulously crafted vision for order.
That context is crucial. I mean, to truly appreciate the depth and ambition of Confucianism, we have to understand the world he was born into.
Absolutely.
Picture this, a time of relentless, brutal warfare, where states constantly clashed, borders shifted with every battle, and the very concept of a central authority had basically crumbled.
Yeah, total fragmentation.
Add to that pervasive moral decay, rampant political corruption, and widespread suffering across a vast land. That's the chaotic, tumultuous stage Confucius stepped onto.
It really was.
So the central question becomes, what drove him, this one individual, to develop such a comprehensive and utterly enduring system for societal order and individual virtue? This wasn't some abstract philosophical exercise in a quiet study, was it?
Not at all. It was an urgent, almost desperate response to a world teetering on the brink.
Let's transport ourselves back to that era then. Confucius wasn't born into a peaceful, stable world. Far from it.
Definitely not.
Historical accounts paint a vivid picture of profound instability during the Eastern Zhou period, specifically the latter part of what's known as the Spring and Autumn period.
Right, the Chenggu period.
Exactly. This era, stretching from roughly 770 to 256 BCE, was a long, drawn-out period of decline for the once powerful Zhou dynasty.
A slow unraveling.
And Confucius himself lived right in the thick of it, from 551 to 479 BCE, witnessing the full scope of this societal unraveling firsthand.
To put this in perspective, the Zhou dynasty's legitimacy, its very right to rule, was rooted in this foundational concept known as Tianming.
The mandate of heaven, right?
Exactly, the mandate of heaven. This was the profound idea that the ruler's power was sanctioned by a divine sort of cosmic authority, as long as the emperor governed justly and benevolently, maintaining harmony between heaven and earth.
Then heaven was cool with them ruling.
Pretty much. Heaven would grant them continued rule. But by Confucius's time, that heavenly approval seemed to be visibly fading. It was perceived not just as political decline, but as a cosmic vote of no confidence.
So things like floods or famines were seen as signs.
Absolutely. When rivers flooded, or crops failed, or rebellions erupted, these were often interpreted as heaven itself signaling disapproval of the ruler. It gave the people a kind of moral justification for change.
Wow. So that must have really underbowed the Zhou emperors.
Hugely. This led to a serious power vacuum and a profound crisis of legitimacy, as the central authority of the Zhou emperors withered to almost nothing. They were rulers in name, maybe, but not much else.
So instead of one powerful, unified empire under a divinely sanctioned ruler, what did this weakening mandate of heaven leave in its wake across the Chinese lands? What did that look like on the ground?
Well, chaos, basically. It led to a landscape fragmented into numerous small states, each vying aggressively for power.
Little kingdoms fighting each other.
Precisely. Scholars describe constant internal conflicts and incessant wars between these states, often brutal and protracted. This wasn't just abstract political instability, it was a profound breakdown of social order.
People didn't know the rules anymore.
It felt like that. People lived in an environment where the traditional rules seemed to no longer apply, where respect for authority and established norms had just eroded.
And you mentioned moral decay, too.
Yes. Accompanying this political fragmentation was widespread moral decay. We're talking about a society where political corruption was rampant, Officials valued personal ambition and gain far above the collective good.
So bribery, injustice, that kind of thing.
All of it. Bribery was common, and injustice was pervasive. There was a palpable sense of ethical erosion, where the old virtues of loyalty, integrity, and deference to tradition seemed to have lost their grip entirely. It was a dog-eat-dog world in many ways.
And it wasn't just the rulers and the elite who suffered, was it? This instability seemed to affect everyone, right down to the common person.
Absolutely. The social mobility that might have existed in earlier, more stable times narrowed significantly.
Unless you were stuck where you were born.
Pretty much. It essentially trapped people in their social strata. A peasant's child had little to no hope of rising. There was also a bureaucratic collapse, meaning the administrative systems that were supposed to manage the state and provide services were failing.
So the government wasn't really functioning.
Barely, in many places. Imagine a society where the government is corrupt, the social rules are crumbling, banditry is common, and there's constant warfare. Daily life was incredibly precarious.
This sounds terrifying.
It was. Family structures, which were the backbone of society, were often disrupted by conscription for these endless wars, or by famine resulting from the instability. It was a bleak picture, a true state of chaos that touched every aspect of life.
So for someone living through it like Confucius, this wasn't just abstract political theory. It was the lived reality of a society unraveling, a daily struggle for order and meaning. He must have seen the profound suffering it caused all around him.
Definitely. He didn't just observe the chaos, he perceived the root cause. And crucially, he didn't see it merely in external factors like war or economic hardship.
He saw something deeper.
Yes, he saw it as a deeper, more insidious moral erosion within people and their leaders. That was the core problem, in his view.
This begs the question then. How do you possibly fix a broken society of this magnitude? What was his answer?
Well, Confucius's revolutionary idea, born from this very observation, was that it wasn't primarily about more laws, stronger armies, or even radical political overhauls in the conventional sense.
So not just tinkering with the system.
Exactly. Instead, he believed the true solution lay in cultivating human nature and restoring virtues, both within individuals and, crucially, within those who governed.
So fixing people first.
In a way, yes. He was convinced that if people, especially those in power, became morally upright, societal order would naturally follow. This was a radical shift from focusing on external control and punishment.
Which wasn't working anyway.
Right, to focusing on internal cultivation and ethical example. He saw that imposing order through force was temporary. True, lasting order must emerge from cultivated hearts.
Okay, let's get to know the man himself then. The one who looked at that crumbling world and dared to dream of a better one. Born Kongqi.
Right, that was his personal name.
In 551 BCE, in the small Lu state, what's now modern-day Shandong province, his life wasn't one of ease or privilege, despite his family's somewhat noble but declining background.
No, not at all. His personal journey, in many ways, mirrored the societal challenges he sought to address.
Well, so?
What stands out here is how his personal struggles directly informed his philosophy. Historical accounts tell us he faced significant material hardship early on.
Because his father died young, right?
Exactly. His father died when Confucius was very young, leaving his mother to raise him in poverty. This meant he didn't grow up with the comfort or security that one might expect from a noble lineage.
So life was tough from the start.
It seems so. Yet, paradoxically, these difficulties fueled an incredible, almost obsessive dedication to self-education. He wasn't relying on formal institutions or family wealth.
Because he didn't have access to them?
Precisely. He immersed himself in learning across diverse fields, often by seeking out teachers and mentors wherever he could find them. He became a scholar not by birthright, but by relentless effort and an insatiable curiosity.
So he was a self-made scholar in a very real sense. What areas did he delve into, given the lack of formal schooling?
Absolutely. His studies were incredibly broad and deep for his time. He meticulously studied history.
Looking for clues from the past.
Yes, seeking lessons from past successes and failures, hoping to find a golden age he could perhaps resurrect. He delved into literature and poetry, understanding the power of narrative and poetic expression to inspire and uplift.
And music, too, I read.
Yes, music was also a critical part of his learning. He saw it not just as entertainment, but as an expression of cosmic harmony and societal order. And crucially, he mastered rituals, ethics, and politics, seeing them as completely inseparable. These weren't just academic pursuits for him. They were practical tools for understanding and reforming society.
So he wasn't just accumulating knowledge.
No, he was seeking wisdom, a deep understanding of how the world should work and how humans should behave within it.
He wasn't just a scholar, though. He was a man of action, or at least he tried to be. He held various official government posts throughout his life, minor ones mostly.
Some minor, some potentially more significant, but the records are a bit patchy. But what we understand is he never truly found lasting political sway.
Why not? He had all these ideas.
He struggled to implement his vision directly from a position of power. He often resigned when his advice wasn't heeded or when rulers acted unvirtuously, which, given the times, was probably quite often.
So he kept hitting a wall.
Pretty much. This raises an important point about his impact, though. Even though he didn't transform politics directly in his lifetime, these experiences were absolutely crucial for shaping his ethical and political understanding.
How so?
Well, he wasn't an armchair philosopher. He observed firsthand, from within the system, the crises caused by rulers who lacked virtue. He saw the corruption, the self-interest, the disregard for the people's welfare.
He saw it up close.
Exactly. He would offer counsel based on his studies and principles, only to see it ignored in favor of short-sighted power plays. These observations solidified his conviction that cultivating virtuous leaders was paramount.
Because without them, nothing else mattered.
That was his conclusion. He understood that without moral leadership, no political system, no matter how well designed or legally enforced, could truly succeed. His inability to find a lasting political role was, in a way, a testament to the depth of the moral decay he was fighting against.
But it also sharpened his focus.
Yes, it cemented his belief that the true path to societal reform lay not just in holding office, but in shaping the character of those who would one day hold it. He famously said something like, "If a man has no integrity, how can he succeed?" A sentiment surely forged from bitter experience.
So, facing these political frustrations, he turned his focus to what he could control: education.
That seems to be the case.
His enduring legacy isn't just his profound ideas, but the fact that his students carry them forward, becoming the conduits through which his philosophy would eventually transform an entire civilization.
Exactly. He became a teacher almost by necessity, perhaps, and in doing so became one of history's most influential educators. And crucially, he taught anyone who genuinely sought knowledge, regardless of their background.
Which was radical for the time.
Very radical. His students became the devoted custodians of his thought, diligently compiling his sayings, dialogues, and advice after his passing.
Which brings us to the Analects.
Precisely. This dedication gave us Lunyu, more famously known in the West as the Analects. They aren't a systematic treatise, like you might expect.
No, they're more like snippets of conversation.
Exactly. A collection of concise conversations, direct wisdom, and insightful anecdotes from Confucius himself, often in response to his students' questions. They offer an intimate glimpse into his teaching style, his personality, and the very essence of his philosophy.
And that's how his teachings survived.
Yes, preserving his teachings for millennia and making them accessible and enduring. It's a remarkable example of how a teacher's legacy can be built and transmitted through the unwavering commitment of their devoted followers.
All right, let's unpack this core of Confucian thought then. It's not just about what to think, but how to live and how to build a just society, right?
Absolutely. His key ideas are fascinating because they are so interconnected. They form a comprehensive social and political doctrine. It covers human nature, society, morality, politics, education.
The whole package.
It's truly a holistic system where each piece reinforces the others.
So these core virtues, they're not just separate items on a list.
No, not at all. In the grander scheme, these concepts aren't standalone virtues to be collected like stamps in an album. They form a cohesive, living ethical framework, each supporting and enriching the others.
Okay.
They are the foundational pillars upon which his entire vision of a harmonious society rests. Without understanding how these virtues interrelate and depend on each other, you miss the fundamental essence of Confucianism. They are the building blocks of the Gen Z, the exemplary person, and the harmonious society they inhabit. Hashtag 3.1 Ren, humanity benevolence.
Okay, let's start with Ren, R-E-N. This is widely considered the big one, isn't it? The absolute core of everything in Confucianism.
It really is. It's often translated as humanity or benevolent humanity or sometimes just goodness.
Our sources describe it as a profound sense of empathy, love, and compassion that extends to everyone. It's about deep love, respect, and empathy for others, like a radical compassion.
That's a good way to put it. It forms the bedrock of all good relationships. It's the ultimate ethical compass guiding all actions.
So it's internal, a feeling.
It starts internally, yes. A profound insight of Ren lies in its radical premise. Individual self-cultivation isn't just a private moral endeavor, but the direct engine for creating a harmonious society.
Ah, so personal virtue becomes political.
Exactly. It uniquely bridges the inner world of ethics with the outer world of governance, making personal virtue a political act. Ren isn't just about being a good person in isolation. It's explicitly presented as the bridge between individual conscience and societal duties.
So it has to be expressed outwardly.
It must manifest externally in your interactions. Ren is essential for social harmony because it fosters a genuine connection with others, seeing others almost as extensions of oneself. That famous quote from Confucius, "Do not do to others what you do not want done to yourself."
The golden rule, basically.
Yes, the Confucian Golden Rule. It truly encapsulates its essence in human relationships. It's a call to universal compassion, the wellspring from which all other virtues flow, guiding behavior from a place of deep understanding and consideration for others' well-being. Hashtag 3.2 Lai writes, rituals and social order.
Okay, next we have Lin, L-I-I. It's easy to misunderstand Lig as just about bowing or formal ceremonies, isn't it? Very easy.
Yeah.
But ancient texts clarify that it's about the very fabric of social conduct and norms. It encompasses everything from grand religious rites and state ceremonies to daily etiquette, traditions, and the appropriate way to interact in society.
So all the rules of proper behavior.
In a sense, yes. It's essentially the external manifestation of internal virtue, the proper way to express Ren in public life, how you show respect and consideration.
It begs the question, how do you maintain order and harmony without rigid, punitive laws, especially in a chaotic era like his?
Well, Lid provides that framework. Confucius emphasized Li's critical role in establishing order and harmony, helping individuals understand and fulfill their roles within society, father, son, ruler, subject, etc.
So it gives structure. Exactly. It's not about blind adherence to rigid rules. It's about a disciplined, appropriate way of behaving that reflects inner virtue and fosters mutual respect. Sources clarify that Li is both external behavior and internal discipline. It guides what you do and how you feel about it.
It shapes you inside and out.
That's the idea. It's the outward expression of Ren. Confucius profoundly believed its neglect, the abandonment of these established social norms and traditional ways of interacting, was a primary cause of the societal decay he witnessed.
Well, when Li breaks down,
When Li breaks down, people don't know how to interact properly, respect diminishes, and social cohesion unravels. It's the crucial glue that holds everything together, ensuring predictability and deference in human interactions. It's about knowing your place and acting accordingly, not as subservience, but as part of a harmonious whole. Hashtag 3.3 Yi, righteousness and justice.
then there's Yi, Y-I. This sounds more straightforward, doing the right thing.
Essentially, yes. It's about doing the right thing, pure and simple, even when it's not convenient or self-serving. It's the principle of moral correctness, standing for what is just.
So, integrity.
Integrity is a big part of it. It's about acting according to what is morally correct rather than what benefits you personally. It's the unwavering commitment to what is right.
Zooming out a bit, how does Yi fit with Ren and Li?
Well, Yi is the unwavering moral compass in Confucian thought. Confucius argued that Yi means acting based on moral correctness rather than mere self-interest, connecting it directly to universal justice.
Okay.
It's about making choices that align with what is fundamentally right, even if it demands personal sacrifice or goes against popular opinion. Scholars explicitly state that Ren and Li would simply become empty gestures, ineffective and meaningless, without Yi.
So Ren and Li need Yi to be genuine.
Exactly. If you perform rituals, Li, without a genuine sense of justice, Yi, or act benevolently, Ren, only when it serves your own ends, it's not true virtue. It's hypocrisy. It's especially critical for leaders, as Yi guides their decisions, ensuring they act for the common good and not for personal gain or power. It provides the moral backbone, ensuring that actions, even those that appear benevolent or ritually correct, are rooted in true justice. Hashtag 3.4 Zihe, and Shin, wisdom and trustworthiness.
Finally, we have Z, VHI for wisdom, and Sin, XIN for trustworthiness. These might seem straightforward, but they're deeply profound and indispensable in Confucian thought, right?
Absolutely. They serve as crucial virtues for both individuals and the smooth functioning of society. You could see them as the practical application of the other virtues, allowing them to truly flourish.
So let's take Z first, wisdom. Is it just about being smart?
No, what stands out here is how Z isn't just about accumulating facts or possessing a vast amount of knowledge, like we might think of intelligence today.
So more than book learning.
Much more, it's defined as the ability to discern right from wrong, to apply knowledge discerningly, to understand the subtle nuances of moral situations, and to know when and how to act.
Practical judgment.
Precisely. Confucius emphasized that a truly virtuous person is wise, meaning they have practical judgment and moral insight, not just a collection of information. It's the ability to see through deception and understand the true nature of things.
Okay, and Shin. Trustworthiness. That seems fundamental.
It really is. Shinin is presented as the very bedrock of all human interactions, from the smallest promise between friends to the grandest treaty between states.
So keeping your word.
Yes, it means honesty, keeping one's word, and being reliable. Without it, the entire social fabric begins to fray. Imagine a society where promises are meaningless and people cannot rely on each other. It quickly devolves into chaos.
Right, nothing works.
Exactly. Shin provides the essential foundation for building trust, both personally and institutionally, making all other virtues possible and reliable. A leader without Shin can command no genuine respect or loyalty.
So, if society was in such disarray as we discussed earlier, what hope did Confucius actually have for humanity itself? His view on human nature is surprisingly optimistic, isn't it? Especially for a time of such bleakness.
It really is. He believed we are not born inherently good or evil.
So not fixed.
Not fixed. But we can be molded, perfected, and guided towards virtue through diligent education and self-discipline. This is a very foundational idea for his entire system.
The engine for his philosophy, you could say.
Yes, it provides the optimistic engine. This leads us to consider a crucial point. If our moral state isn't fixed at birth, how do we become virtuous?
Education?
Education is Confucius's profound, for his time, quite radical answer. It's not just a means of acquiring skills or rote memorization. It is the central transformative process in Confucian philosophy.
Transformative how?
It's designed to cultivate individuals into morally excellent beings, and to the very Junzi, the exemplary person we mentioned earlier. He famously said something like, "By nature, men are nearly alike. By practice, they get to be wide apart."
Meaning education makes the difference.
Exactly. This underscored his belief in humanity's innate potential for betterment.
And what was the purpose of this education? Beyond just learning facts, was it just about creating scholars?
Not at all. The purpose of education, according to Confucius, was not merely knowledge transfer, nor was it primarily to secure a good job or climb the social ladder, though those could be byproducts.
So what was the main goal?
It was primarily about character and virtue development. The goal was to shape individuals into morally upright people who could contribute to a harmonious society.
Making good citizens.
And good people. It was about developing one's ethical self, learning how to apply virtues like Ren, Li, and Yi in daily life, transforming theoretical knowledge into lived wisdom.
And he thought anyone could learn this.
That's what's truly groundbreaking, and a significant reform proposal against the aristocratic system prevalent in his time, his idea of education being open to all.
Regardless of social status.
Yes. Regardless of one's social status, whether noble or common-born, the opportunity for moral and intellectual improvement through education should be available. This was a radical democratizing principle in an era defined by inherited privilege.
Where education was usually just for the rich.
Exactly. He accepted students based on their earnestness to learn, their desire, not their wealth or background.
So it wasn't just who could learn, but how they learned that was important to him, right?
Yeah.
He must have been an innovative teacher for his time.
Indeed. What's fascinating here is his pedagogical approach. Confucius advocated for continuous learning, emphasizing that knowledge isn't static, it's a lifelong journey.
Never stop learning.
Right. He understood that true wisdom comes from putting knowledge into practice and gaining experience. He famously stated, "Learning without thinking is useless. Thinking without learning is dangerous. You need both."
Makes sense.
Ancient accounts also indicate he adapted his teaching methods to different student capacities, recognizing that not all students learn in the same way or at the same pace.
Personalized learning, way back then.
In a way, yes. He used a form of Socratic dialogue, asking probing questions and encouraging self-reflection and active engagement with the material, rather than simply lecturing.
Getting them to think for themselves.
Exactly. He made sure that knowledge didn't just stay in the head, but transformed into virtue through application and lived experience, truly internalizing values, not just memorizing texts. He sought to cultivate the whole person.
Okay, so if individuals can be perfected through education and self-cultivation, what about the state itself? How did he see politics working?
Well, Confucius envisioned a political system built not on force, punishment, or rigid laws, but on moral rectitude.
Leading by example.
Precisely. He saw the ruler not as an absolute monarch demanding obedience, but as a benevolent father to his people, guiding them through example and virtue rather than coercion.
Which must have sounded pretty radical in his chaotic era.
Absolutely. It was a fundamentally different approach to governance than what was common then, where might often made right.
You mentioned the Junzi before the exemplary person. How do they fit into politics?
The Junzi is central to this vision of administration. The Junzi isn't just a good person in a general sense. They are the ideal leader, a morally superior individual who has perfected themselves through rigorous self-cultivation.
The ideal politician, maybe.
Perhaps. They are described as moral, wise, just, and disciplined, setting the ethical standard for others to follow. Confucius profoundly believed that governance should be achieved through virtue, not coercion or military might.
Why did he think that would work better?
He argued that a virtuous leader naturally earns the people's respect and loyalty because people will emulate those they admire. This respect, born from the ruler's upright character and moral example, is what truly ensures social order.
More effectively than fear or punishment.
Far more effectively and sustainably, in his view. He stressed the priority of merit and moral values in administration, meaning positions should be filled by those who possess genuine virtue and competence, not merely by birthright or wealth.
Meritocracy based on virtue.
Exactly. In the grander scheme, Confucius believed that a leader's virtue was the most powerful and sustainable form of governance. Respect, not fear, leads to lasting order and a flourishing society.
But the state starts small, right? For Confucius, the family was the foundational building block of everything.
Absolutely critical. It's where social order truly begins, the first school of morality and discipline, the training ground for all relationships.
And the key concept here is zhao, filial piety.
Yes. What stands out here is the profound emphasis on zhao, or filial piety, the deep respect, devotion, and care owed to one's parents and elders.
But it's more than just being nice to your parents.
Much more. This isn't just a quaint family value. It's explicitly presented as the cornerstone of harmony within both the family and the broader society. It's seen as a microcosm of the larger social structure.
How so?
The way you treat your parents and elders, with respect, care, and obedience, but also understanding that parents have a reciprocal duty to care for their children, is the training ground for how you treat your ruler, your superiors, and your fellow citizens.
The relationships mirror each other.
Exactly. Confucius outlined 5 relationships that form the basis of social harmony: ruler and subject, father and son, husband and wife, elder brother and younger brother, and friends.
And they're all hierarchical.
Mostly, yes, except for friends. But crucially, all are reciprocal, meaning both parties have duties and responsibilities to one another. It's not just top-down obedience.
Okay, that's
Very, very. The order and harmony within the family unit, cultivated through filial piety and these relationships, are directly linked to, and indeed foundational for, broader societal order.
So fix the family, fix the state.
That's a simplified way of putting it, but yes, that's the core idea. If families are harmonious, then communities can be harmonious, and by extension, the state can be harmonious. It's a fundamental principle for building a stable and virtuous society from the ground up, where virtue learned at home extends outwards into the world.
So where do we find these incredible ideas written down, these profound insights that shaped a civilization? Interestingly, Confucius himself did not write his teachings directly.
That's right. A bit unusual for such a foundational figure, maybe.
Yeah. He preferred to teach orally, to engage in dynamic dialogues and conversations with his students. So the preservation of his wisdom fell almost entirely to his devoted students and their descendants.
Which then leads us to ask, how did his ideas survive and become so influential? The Analects, or Lunyu, as we mentioned, are our primary window into his mind and method.
Compiled by his students after he died.
Exactly. They were meticulously compiled, capturing his wisdom in a series of concise conversations, dialogues, and practical advice, often in response to specific questions. They are not a systematic philosophical treatise like a modern textbook.
No, much more fragmented almost.
Yes, fragmented but potent, a collection of aphorisms, anecdotes, and ethical maxims. This makes them incredibly accessible and intimate, offering an immediate glimpse into his teaching style, his personality, and the essence of his philosophy.
And that ensured his thoughts remained accessible.
Accessible and enduring for millennia. It's a remarkable example of how a teacher's legacy can be built and transmitted through the unwavering dedication of their followers, like a living record of his thought.
But he wasn't working in an intellectual vacuum, was he? He was deeply rooted in the traditions and scholarship that came before him.
Oh, absolutely. There was a broader intellectual landscape he worked within, a rich tradition of texts that preceded him, known as the Five Classics.
The Wu Jing.
Exactly. The Five Classics, or Wu Jing, formed the crucial cultural and intellectual foundation upon which Confucius built his teachings. And he himself studied these deeply, revered them, and transmitted them to his students.
Can you list them quickly?
Sure. There's the Book of Poetry, Shi Jing, a collection of ancient verses and songs. The Book of History, Shu Jing, documenting early Chinese history, speeches, and governmental principles. The Book of Rites, Li Ji.
Which connects to the virtue li.
Precisely, detailing ancient ceremonial practices, social etiquette, and norms, the practical application of Li. Then the Book of Changes, I Ching, a more mystical text on cosmology, divination, and philosophy.
And the last one.
The Spring and Autumn Annals, Zhonghui, which was a historical chronicle of his home state of Lu, supposedly edited by Confucius himself.
So what was Confucius's role with these classics? Did he just teach them?
He did more than just teach them. His genius lay not just in creating new ideas, but in how he interpreted, restructured, and championed these existing works.
He put his own spin on them.
You could say that. He infused them with his own ethical and moral philosophy, turning them from mere historical or ritualistic texts into foundational moral and political guides. He saw these classics as repositories of wisdom from a golden age
That he wanted to return to.
Exactly. And through his lens, they became the bedrock of Chinese culture, education, and crucially, the imperial civil service examinations for centuries.
Wow, so passing the test meant knowing these texts through his interpretation.
Largely, yes. He effectively reshaped the intellectual heritage of China through his unique ethical perspective, making these texts central to anyone aspiring to an education or a position of power for a very, very long time. Hashtag tag tag outro.
So what does this all mean for us, thousands of years later? Taking a step back, from a time of utter chaos and societal breakdown, Confucius offered a profound, intensely practical solution.
It really was practical, aimed at real-world change.
His philosophy was a comprehensive system built on the cultivation of moral virtues like humanity, righteousness, wisdom, and trustworthiness.
Ren, Yi, Zi, Xin.
Right. All reinforced by traditional rights and social norms. Li guided by merit-based leadership through the example of the Junzi, and propagated through universal education.
A complete vision.
He didn't just theorize, he provided a concrete blueprint for how a society could pull itself back from the brink, not through force, but through the cultivation of character.
In the grander scheme, Confucianism was far from a fleeting philosophy that faded with its founder. It became the very backbone of China's imperial system for thousands of years.
Thousands of years, that's staggering.
It really is. Profoundly influencing governance, education through the civil service exams, and every layer of social structure. And its influence spread far beyond China.
Right across East Asia.
Exactly. It has left an indelible mark across East Asia, shaping cultural norms, individual ethical identities, and even political thought right up to modern times. Its enduring emphasis on self-cultivation, the importance of family values, the belief in education as a transformative force, and the ideal of benevolent leadership continues to resonate even in our rapidly changing contemporary world.
It's a testament to the power of ideas, really.
Absolutely. To transcend time and geography like that.
This deep dive into Confucianism shows us how a profound pursuit of virtue and order, born from the most chaotic of times, can resonate across thousands of years and transform an entire civilization. It makes you wonder, in our own complex and often turbulent modern world, where might a renewed focus on personal and collective virtue, on integrity, on empathy, on, the pursuit of wisdom for the common good, lead us?
That's a powerful question.
What ancient wisdom forged in antiquity might still hold surprisingly potent keys to our contemporary challenges? Perhaps the chaos of the past holds lessons for finding our own path to harmony today.